You're listening to The Takeover on Life FM for your Wednesday night, and joined in the studio by Kelli Kieselbach, Kelli K Naturopath, for one of these.
Wellness Wednesdays on The Takeover. Brought to you by station sponsor Kelli K Naturopath. Book your free discovery call today to uncover better health and quality of life.
Yes, Kelli, welcome back to the studio.
Thank you.
So good to have you here. Tonight we are looking at a topic that is relevant for me at this point in time, but I'm sure for many of us anyway, all year round, and that is partying, because I'm having my 30th birthday this weekend.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. And, we're looking at tonight the concept of, I guess, overindulging in those sometimes foods. So, when you've got a party or an event on, it can be very easy to eat too much of something that you don't usually eat, and the same goes, I suppose, with alcohol and things. What are your tips for not overindulging, or ways to actually just avoid that?
Yeah, okay. Well, I'd say probably one of the biggest things would be to plan. Like if you're someone who does tend to overindulge quite a bit, if you know that you're going somewhere, going to a party or something like that, decide beforehand, what it is that you want to have, how much you want to have, and try and stick with those limits. So you've got some idea before you attend somewhere.
Yep.
But I would also say it is important for us to be a little bit flexible as well, because we don't want to be too restrictive. Food is a huge part of our culture and our social interaction. It's really important for celebrations and things like that. So we want to be able to allow ourselves some freedom. But also having those pre-planned, what you're going to have, what's a reasonable amount for you, can be really helpful.
Because for my party, it's going to be cocktail food, and a lot of what you can choose from when it comes to cocktail food it's kind of the discretionary kind of sometimes foods, like fried foods or things that are, high in processed carbohydrates and different things. So I know that they're not the healthiest options, but it's also kind of all that you kind of have to play with sometimes when you at most venues. So I think, enjoying those foods but not going too far.
Yeah, I think so. And if you're the host of the party, sometimes there are limitations if someone else is catering. But if you have the ability to balance that with some healthier options, that's a really nice way to go about it as well. Because there's some really delicious, fun foods that can also have some nutritional value for you as well. So that's a really important thing. And obviously, if you are having alcohol as well, making sure you're eating, making sure you're having a glass of water between drinks as well can be really important. So trying to use common sense and have some balance around those things is really important.
Okay, you say water in between alcoholic drinks. What about things like sugar-free drinks or soft drinks? Are they, obviously they're not as good as water?
Well, nothing's as good as water. So, but the sugar-free drinks, it's a kind of a double-edged sword. You're not getting the sugars, but then a lot of those artificially sweetened drinks, they've got chemicals in them that we know long-term are not great for our health. But again, it depends on how often are you having these things. Is it a one-off? Is it
every day?
Is it? Are you just having these? When you are at a party or when you're out with friends, and is that a better option to what you would have otherwise chosen? So I think sometimes they can be okay, but I would recommend not drinking them as a part of your daily sort of eating and drinking habits.
Some good tips there. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to ask you about the other side of it. So say you've been to a party or you've been out on the weekend, and the next day you're feeling a little bit groggy, or you need a little bit of healing, I suppose, to help your gut and to help your overall health. I want to ask you what your recommendations are going forward after you've been overindulging. So, if you've got a party coming up, but even just, weddings and things like that, we tend to eat a lot and drink a lot. How can we actually recover, I suppose, in the following days? So we'll chat a little bit about that straight after this. You're on The Takeover for Wellness Wednesdays on Life FM. You're listening to The Takeover on Life FM with Ollie and Maz for your Wednesday night. And joining us in the studio, we have Kelli Kieselbach from Kelli Naturopath. Kelli, so good to have you back in the studio tonight for another Wellness Wednesdays.
So great to be back.
And we're talking about partying and overindulging on party foods and alcohol and, you know, obviously within moderation and, you know, healthy intake of alcohol particularly. But we're talking, I guess, about going to a party or going out and eating foods or drinking drinks that you wouldn't usually have as part of your diet. And the following day, maybe waking up feeling a little bit run down, a little bit worse for wear, or even the next couple of days, maybe a bit bloated, those kinds of things. What would be your tips for recovering from overindulging?
Yeah, well, the first thing I would say is to get as many nutritious foods back in the diet as soon as you can. So lots of salad foods, lots of things that are, you know, not too hard on the gut but easy to digest. So a nice simple salad or a soup or something like that. Those types of foods can be really nourishing and they can just help with easing your gut back into, you know, what a normal diet, I suppose.
Okay, yep.
I mean, it depends, you know, when we say overindulge, it's like how far have you gone? Yeah, that's right.
I guess it's different for everyone too, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And people will respond differently, particularly, you know, things like fatty foods and alcohol. You know, if you've already got, you know, a bit of a sluggish liver or, you know, your gut's not quite right or you've got some of those IBS symptoms, you'll probably find that you respond more poorly than someone else who's a bit more robust in their health.
Okay.
So I would be doing things like definitely drinking lots of water, but you can also add in some things like lemon juice in your water as well.
Yeah.
That can be nice and just support your digestion and your liver.
Okay.
Eating lots of spices in the food, so lots of things like turmeric and ginger, cumin, that type of thing.
So curries, those kinds of things. Yeah.
To support, to increase antioxidants, but also to support, you know, liver and digestive function as well. Yeah, can be really useful. And then, you know, if you're really struggling, things like, you know, multi-B complexes and things like that can be quite useful in terms of recovery, particularly with the alcohol side of things. If you're not someone that processes that very well, then that can help with recovery as well. Both, you know, probably before the night and then the following day as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So keeping up your B vitamins.
B vitamins, yeah. And obviously just being really sensible in terms of avoiding some of those really deep fried or, you know, poor fat foods.
Yeah.
And instead making sure you're having good quality protein.
Yeah. So if you're going to a party where you know there's going to be cocktail food, maybe even, I don't know, like having a small meal beforehand. So I find that is helpful for me if I know I'm going to a party where there's going to be a lot of food that I shouldn't eat. I will eat something small at home, like even just some fried eggs or a little salad or something.
Great idea.
And then, you know, you get there and you're not starving, so you're not going to like go overboard. And I find that that's really helpful for me. But in saying that, I love all of those foods like hot chips and wedges and, you know, sausage rolls and all those things that we know are not necessarily great for us, but they're very tasty.
They are tasty. And it's important to understand that a lot of these foods that are very high carb or high fat, things like hot chips, they do have an impact on our brain and our mood. So they kind of light up those areas of the brain, which is why we tend to crave them so intensely, or why we tend to call those things comfort foods.
Yes, yeah.
They make us feel good.
Yeah.
And there's a chemical reaction happening in your brain that can that is a part of why that makes us feel so good.
Okay.
So it is natural to crave a lot of those foods.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is a really great tip as well. If you're not ravenous when you arrive somewhere, then that's going to help you to have more moderation.
Yeah. And maybe select better choices when they come around as well, rather than just take a handful of chips right at the beginning and then.
Yeah.
And the thing with those foods as well is that sometimes they don't fill you up, so you just keep eating more.
And if you do have the option of having, like, if there's some more protein-rich foods available, then having some of those first and then having your hot chips, that can help as well, because that's going to help fill you up and send those messages to your brain that you've had something to eat. So you're less likely to overeat on the, more refined carbs and cakes and lollies and hot chips and things like that.
Yeah, okay. That's a really good tip too. Some really good advice. So don't feel like if you're going to a party or you're going to a wedding or a big event where there's lots of food and things, you don't feel like you have to deprive yourself, basically. Just everything in moderation.
Right. That's right. Yeah, be sensible. And obviously within your, everyone's different. So we're talking about the general population. But, if you've got a health condition where you do have to be a bit more strict, then that planning becomes really more important. Those things like eating before you go and planning what you're going to have when you get there. Finding out beforehand. Sometimes if you're going out to a restaurant with friends, it's not a bad idea to have a look at the menu before you go to make sure there's something on there that you can eat, that you're comfortable eating, so that you don't feel so overwhelmed when you're there sitting down trying to make a decision.
Do some research.
That can be really helpful as well.
Oh, so good. So many great tips. Kelli, thank you so much for joining us again, and we can find you on Instagram, is that right?
Yes, you can. Yep, Kelli K_naturopath. Yeah, and Facebook as well.
Fantastic. So, a wealth of knowledge, and such an honour to have you on the show every second Wednesday for Wellness Wednesdays. And if you've got any specific questions for Kelli, you can shoot them through 0413 90 1079. Kelli, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.